भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्म विद्या संप्रदाय कर्तृभ्यो वंश ऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहितः प्रज्ञानघनः प्रत्यगर्थो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ओम शांति शांति शांति। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शंकरं लोकशंकरम्। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेद विभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। मंत्र नंबर 10। तदेतद्रुचा अभ्युक्तम् तदेतद्रुचा अभ्युक्तम् क्रियावन्तः श्रोत्रियाः ब्रह्मनिष्ठाः स्वयं जुह्वत एकर्षि श्रद्धयन्तः तेषाम् एवैतां ब्रह्मविद्यां वदेत् शिरोव्रतं विधिवत्यस्तु चीर्णम्। The Shruti, or better is a Rishi. We started with Shaunako Havai Mahashalo Vidivat Upasanna Papracha Kasvinnu Bhagavo Vignate Sarvamidam Vignatam Bhavati Tagum Hovacha. To him the teacher had told, to Shaunaka Rishi. So the teacher is now concluding. There is a tradition of conclusion. One way how you conclude. Then the teacher said, the concluding is, they tell the phalam. What is the phalam of this knowledge? Or they talk about who is the adhikari. Whom should be told. And he also say whom should not be told. In Gita Ji, in the 18th chapter, you will see, Bhagavan tells this. Nacha ashraddhayantaha asuyavantaha. You should not teach this. You should not give this knowledge to this person. And then yomam, who has a shraddha on me and learns, he gains this. So both the things, who should not be taught and who should be taught. Or simply who should be given. Implying one who doesn't have these qualifications, this knowledge should not be given. Why is it so? See, this knowledge gives immediate result. Drashtaphalam. Means what? When you know the vastu, you can discover that I am Ananda. You can discover Aham Purna. You discover right there and there that I am happiness. I am Ananta. That discovery takes place immediately to the knowledge. There is no vyavadhana between knowledge and phalam. Vyavadhana means there is no impediment. There is no time that you have to spend extra for gaining this phalam of it. That is a difference, or what we call a sambandha. In the sadhan chatushtayam, the sambandha between the grantha, between the vidya and the phalam is immediate. Whereas in karma kanda, sambandha is different. You study that karma kanda, you know that vastu, then you have to perform. There is a intermediary vastu, that is action on your part. That particular ritual has to be performed, which is not the case here in the self-knowledge. Gnana samaye eva mukto bhavati. The person becomes free as and when, or as soon as he or she gains that brahmakara vritti. So, if the person, like any other knowledge, this knowledge necessitates some qualification. And if the person is not qualified, the knowledge does not take place. And for some reason, either person's punya or for some partial adhikaritva, or his or her shraddha, whatever, knowledge may take place. But as they say in the Shastric language, sapratibandhaka gnanam will be. There will be knowledge with obstructions. What is a knowledge with obstruction? What do I mean by that knowledge with obstruction? That means the person does not gain the result of this knowledge immediately. Okay? The person, unconscious of the person, the samskaras or the vasanas or the habitual errors or emotional issues momentarily overpowers the person. They are taken over. And therefore, he or she doesn't seem to enjoy that phalam of the knowledge. It takes, it reveals, the knowledge reveals you to be what you are. This knowledge is, remember, is not going to be negated by memory or samskaras. Okay? Or memory or samskara or unconscious or emotional issue born condition of the mind. It is not negated. Only thing is, it can prevent the person from the fruits of knowledge, the phalam of the knowledge, but it cannot take away the knowledge. No. Knowledge will be there, but some pratibandhaka will be there. That is why you find there is a dual personality, Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The person in non-unvulnerable situation, in those situations when the person is fairly balanced, rooted in himself or herself, or steady, then he is all wise. But those vulnerable situations, some relationship, some values, or some corners of the mind which are not processed by the person, when they come into play, knowledge seem to have gone away. And the person doesn't seem to be happy, ananda, purna, etc. Looks like a samsari. So, knowledge is not taken away. The phalam will be taken momentarily. So, it is important that one should be adhikari. If one doesn't have that adhikaritvam for the knowledge, the phalam, the benefit will not be there. And therefore, it should be given only to adhikari. Knowledge should be given to adhikari. Bhashyakara says, Brahma Vidya Sampradana Vidhi Upapradarshanena Upasamhara Kriyate. Acharya is concluding by how Brahma Vidya Sampradana Vidhi. This is an injunction. This is the tradition. How, what tradition? Brahma Vidya Samprada. How Brahma Vidya should be passed on. In other words, to whom the knowledge is to be given. That is being is mentioned. Brahma Vidya Atha Idanim. Now, in introducing this mantra, he says, Tatetat Vidya Sampradana Vidhana Rucha Mantrena Abhyuktam Abhiprakashitam. This mantra reveals that Vidhanam, that injunction, that whom the knowledge should be given. Okay. Now look at the mantra. This mantra, he says, Tadetat Rucha Abhyuktam. Tadetat. This. What is this? This stipulation, this injunction has been laid down by Rucha, by this, laid down by this mantra, by this Ruk. This stipulation has been given by this Rucha, by this mantra. What is that? What is the stipulation? This is, stipulation is, Tesham, look at the second line. Tesham eva etesham Brahma Vidyam Vadeta. To those or to them alone, Brahma Vidyam Vadeta. May you teach Brahma Vidya. May you, Vadeta doesn't mean talk, okay? May you teach only to those fellows. Who are those fellows? Tesham eva Brahma Vidyam Vadeta. This Brahma Vidya should be given to, should be taught to, or should be revealed to only those. Who are they? He gives a list. Okay. One must pass on this to only these people. Who are they? He says, Kriyavantaha, Shrotriyaha, Brahmanishtaha, Swayam Ekarshim Juhvata. Third one, Shraddhayantaha, and then Yesham Shirovratam Vidivastu Vidivat Yastu Chirnam. 5 things. Kriyavantaha, Shrotriyaha, Brahmanishtaha, Swayam Shraddhayantaha, Ekarshim Juhvataha, and Vidivattu Shirovratam Chirnam. To them. Look at one by one. Kriyavantaha. Who are the Kriyavantaha? Kriyavantaha means who are performing the karma. What karma? In a way, this is not necessary, because by nature, any living creature keeps performing the action. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karma kriti. You cannot stand without doing anything. You cannot, as long as you are alive, one or other karma will be performed by an individual, either deliberately or mechanically or unconsciously or reaction, whatever you call it, but performance will be there. Or even involuntary actions. When you can say, I am sleeping. Sleeping is also karma. No, it is not karma. It is absence of karma. Okay. But even while you are, I am ready to give that, that momentarily acceptance to your statement. But even while you are sleeping, digestion takes place. Circulation takes place. Everything takes place. So the karmas are constantly being performed. So what does it mean by Kriyavantaha? The Kriyavantaha means people who are performing their duty. Those who do their enjoined actions. That is Kriyavanta. Enjoined by whom? The answer is enjoined by the Vedas. They perform a Shastra enjoined karmas Technically, we can call it as those who are committed to Nitya Naimittika Karmas. Okay? Those who are committed to Nitya Naimittika Karmas, and they are doing with what? Not simply doing Kriyavantaha, but then they perform karmas with proper attitude. Buddhau Sharanamanvichaha Krupana Falahedava Buddhi Yukto Jahatiha Ube Sukrita Dushkrita. Buddhau means an attitude. What an attitude? First of all, in one Kriyavantah means in one sentence Karma Yogi. Who is a Karma Yogi? Two things. They perform their Kartavya Karma and don't perform Pratishiddha Karma. That is also there. They commit themselves to duties and they make sure that they don't perform the actions which are forbidden by Shastra. That is Kriya. One, first, Karma Yoga. Secondly, people nowadays when I go to some social function and they say, he is a great Karma Yogi of our caste. He is a great Karma Yogi of our society. Why? Because he has been working since morning till evening. You know? Morning till evening, working very hard for the society and works 14 hours a day, etc. As they say, the bullocks also work so many hours. They don't become wiser by working this much. Working is not important. Karma Yoga means, first of all, committing to enjoined karmas and making sure that I don't perform the pratishiddha, the forbidden karmas. One. This is karmanishtha. It's a Vedic, simple Vedic. But that person becomes karma yogi if there is a proper attitude behind those karmas. When these enjoined karmas or even kamya karmas are backed by proper attitude, then it becomes karma yoga. What are the attitudes? We have studied in Gita. Attitude is Ishvara Arpana Buddhi. Yat karoshi, yad ashnasi, yad juhosi, dadasi, yat tapasyasi kaunteya, tat kurushva madarpanam. He offers it to Ishvara. As an offering to Ishvara. He performs seeking the grace of Ishvara. Ishvara pratyarthe idamaham karom. One. Secondly, prasada buddhya karma phalani svikaroti. He accepts the karma phala with an attitude of prasada. Prasada buddhya karma phalani svikaroti. Ishvara paran buddhya karmani swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati man. So these are kriyavant. That means karma yogina. Now, what is the benefit of being a karma yogi? The purpose or the phalam of being a karma yogi is you get vairagya. What is vairagya? Freedom from the holds of likes and dislikes. With this karma per se will not neutralize your raga dveshas, because the raga dveshas are as an attitude born out of some, you can say, misunderstanding or wrong values, technically adhyasa. But that is being neutralized only when you have a proper attitude while performing them. That this attitude will, therefore Bhagavan says, Buddhau Sharanam Vichya. Buddhi Yukto Jahati, Ube. Buddhi Yuktaha, Ube means two, both. Jahati, he crosses over. He destroys, in a sense. You grow out of the hold of your likes and dislikes. That is the phalam. That means antakarana shuddhi. In a more known word, antakarana shuddhi is gained. What is shuddhi? is not just an absence of likes and dislikes. Shuddhi is mastery over my likes and dislikes. Capacity, you have a handle to manage your likes and dislikes. Relatively. That is Shuddhi. So Kriyavantaha means you can say Shuddha Antahkarnavantaha. Relatively, these are the seekers who have relative purity of the heart. They enjoy the relative purity. That is called Kriyavantaha. Okay? Shrotriyaha. Okay. Shrotriyaha word in Vedanta means the teacher. It is used for the teacher. A teacher who knows the methodology of teaching. But here in this context, when the teacher is, Rishi is talking about the adhikari, who is qualified for this knowledge. Into them, when you say kriya ashrotriyaha, it means one who has studied Vedas. Veda pandita, swadhyayavantaha. Those who have, you can say in other words, who have tried to fulfill Rishi Ranam. What is Rishi? How can you fulfill the Rishi Ranam? By studying the Vedas. That you are supposed to follow with Shakha, etc. For the Gotra Veda, they have studied and they are reciting. Swadhyayo adhyatavyaha swadhyaya pravachanabhyam nam pravaditavyam ityadi vidhi. Those who are following. Those fellows who are following this ritual, they are called Shrotriyaha. They are committed to chanting of the Vedas and doing the rituals enjoined by Vedas. Okay. Then he says, Brahmanishtaha Shrotriyaha. What does it mean by Brahmanishtaha? If they are already Brahmanishtaha, they need not be taught. We interpret Brahmanishta means one who is aware, who is knowledgeable, who has a knowledge of Brahman, or who is rooted in Brahman, is the translation, Nishtha. Those who has clear knowledge of Brahman, that's a Brahmanishta. Then why, if you already have a knowledge, why should you be taught? Why should you go to teacher to study? No. Here Brahmanishta means Brahma Praptyai Nishthavanta. Because we are talking of seeker. That means the person is committed to gain the knowledge of Brahman. He is committed. The resolve is there. In other words, samadhana, or you can say mumukshutvam, the strong mumukshutvam vantaha. Those who have very strong mumukshutvam. Means, in a simple jargon, Brahman is a priority in their life. What kind of priority? The priority. Moksha is not one of the Ichha. Moksha is the Ichha. And there are some other desires. But they are what for? Two reasons. There are twofold desires. Either those desires are subservient to moksha, or those desires are there for surviving. Because as long as you wield a body, you need to support the body, you need to support yourself. There may be some desire to eat, desire to protect oneself from the nature, etc. These are all, you can say, Vyavaharik Ichha, just for survival. And he or she, seeker, may have a desire to study Sanskrit, to do some yoga, etc. Why? To keep myself fit, to enhance, that efficiency yoga, energy yoga. All kinds of yogas are coming up, Nowadays, I don't know how, but this, whenever I open my mobile, this advertisement pops up. Feel the energy of a teenager. I said, I don't want to feel that because teenager energy is psychologically most painful. The fellow may have physical energy, but because of the hormonal change, fellow is always unhappy. So I don't want teenager energy. I'm fine with the old man energy. But anyway, all kinds of yogas. No. This fellow performs yoga to keep the body fit so that he can maximize his available resources for the pursuit of moksha. So doing yoga also is subservient to moksha purusha. Learning Sanskrit also is subservient to moksha purusha. Whatever he or she does it, it is all subservient to moksha. This is the thing that I want, and everything else is subservient. That kind of clarity, that kind of commitment is called Brahmanishtha. Okay? These are all who? Brahmanishtha, committed to Brahman. And unless one has this, it's very difficult to gain knowledge. As Puja Swami used to say, this mokshecha is a jealous wife who can't stand any other woman in their life, with the husband's life. That is mokshecha. So, in other words, sannyasina. Brahmanishtaha means sannyasina. Sannyasi means what? Here in Saurashtra and in Prayag also, I had met with 3-4 people, so much close to some sadhus and all that. They all came same, or in one or other word, they said the same thing. Sadhu means he lives a free life. That's a sadhu. That's a sannyasi. When he does whatever he feels like, Ramta Ram, मन में जो आएगा करेगा, नहीं आएगा तो नहीं करेगा. Whatever he feels like doing, he does it. And if he or she doesn't feel like doing, he doesn't do that. I said, partially you are true and partially wrong. And if you don't understand the partial truth of your statement, you are absolutely wrong. What did he say? They are free people. मुक्त लोग होते हैं. साधु तो बड़े मुक्त है. मन में आए सो करे, नहीं आए तो नहीं करे. रमता राम, मन में जो करना वो करे, जो करे साधु है. That is not. And they say sadhu ki masti. That is not sadhu, sannyasi. It in a way true, free. What from? Freedom from likes and dislikes. Freedom from the holds of likes and dislikes. That is the greatest freedom. To gain absolute freedom, that is you, Nitya Mukto Asmi. That to own up that, na baddho na muktaha, na guru na shishya chidananda rupa shivam shivam. To own up that freedom, one needs to be relatively free. So relative freedom is vairagya. Because the shackles of likes and dislikes, that I must have this and must not have this and must do this and must not do this and this ought to be done by this way and not this way, that itself is bondage. Your own subjectivity is bondage. Subjectivity in terms of your attitude, subjectivity in terms of your values, subjectivity in terms of your definitions of successful living, etc., etc. This is bondage. Once the person has a vairagya, he or she is relatively free. That's the first part of the sentence, what they say. And then if you understand one who is a sannyasi, he doesn't feel like doing anything, therefore there is nothing to be done by. Naiva tasya krutena arthaha na krutena kasyana. There is no enjoined karmas. A person who is a sannyasi has no sort of duties toward the society, enjoys inner freedom. So it is not that he roams around listless. No. The person who is not that he sleeps whenever he wants to sleep and suddenly remembers to wakes up and feels like waking up and then eats when he wants to eat, doesn't eat when he doesn't want to eat. That's not Vairagya. He or she has a disciplined life for the pursuit of knowledge. Understand? That is true. He or she doesn't have any duties, any injunctions, any obligations that is to be fulfilled. That is not there. But that doesn't make him, as Puja Swami would say, hobo. He doesn't become hobo. So he's a disciplined person, but then has total commitment to moksha. Okay, so that is called Brahmanishta. Total commitment to pursuit of moksha. Brahmanishta. Who are they? Then he says further. Kriyavantaha Shrotriyaha. Then he says Shraddhavantaha Ekarshim Shraddhavantaha Ekarshri Swayam Juhvataha. Okay. So what they themselves? They themselves Juhvataha. They perform what? Ekarshi ritual. Okay. They themselves perform that Ekarshi ritual. What, just for information, what is Ekarshi ritual? It is a kind of Agnihotra karma mentioned in Atharva Veda. This Upanishad belongs to Atharva Veda, and therefore this Rishi also belongs to Atharva Veda. Therefore he mentions Ekarshi ritual. What is Agnihotra karma? That just you should know. The day this Yagnopavitam is given, from that day, the student or a Shishya is supposed to perform two things. One is Sandhya Vandana. Gayatri Upasana has to be done daily. And secondly, Samhita Dhanam, a small ritual. In the day he or she gets married, from next day they are supposed to perform Agnihotra karma. Agnihotra is a stipulated ritual for every grahastha. And the grahastha has to perform that ritual twice, once in the morning and once in the evening, morning-evening ritual, and Sandhya Vandana. Think of it. And then there were satellized karmas we saw in the earlier section, first section. Yasya Agnihotram cha Dakshayanam Darshaponamasam, etc., etc. We saw that mantra. So it has to be accompanied by all these rituals. They really lived, traditional people lived absolutely religiously. And thereby they had a minimum requirements for themselves. And then most of the time was spent in those karmas, by thereby they can gain antakarana shuddhi and thereby can fulfill the purpose of the human birth. Rituals. Shraddhavantaha ekarshim yajanta swayam yajanta. Not that there are two ways of doing karmas. You choose a Brahmana, Purohit, and pay him dakshina and he does it. Like some people get some anushthanam done. So this Ekarshi and this Agnihotra karmam and Shirovratam karma, all these karmas reveal what? Two things. Brahmanishtaha, Shraddhavantaha, And these words, Shrotriyaha, Kriyavantaha, all this reveals one's commitment to the pursuit of knowledge, and one has necessary preparedness to gain the knowledge. Two things. And as we said in the beginning, if one is not ready, the knowledge, it not only will not reveal, the Brahman will not be revealed, but then if at all revealed, the person will not get the fruits of it. There is a very, very popular misconception about Vedanta in India. But if you go to some people, they say this: Vedanta is very difficult. It is not meant for us. It is only for some selected people. It is for rarest of the rare people. And the simple, there is another problem, and the icing the problem, icing on the cake. So the icing of the problem is bhakti is very simple. Yoga is simple. So you should do some bhakti. You should do some yoga. Don't study Vedanta. Either they say Vedanta is not practical, or they say Vedanta is very, very difficult. You know what? Why they have this misconception? And to our students who have been to Gujarat, there was one Swami Sachidanand. He's still there. Krantikari, revolutionary saint, kept on writing in newspaper and published a book and misguided the society. And he claimed to have studied Vedanta from a teacher. He used to claim. And he said, even if I studied, it is nothing. I found it is useless. Or Vedanta is impractical, etc., etc. And etc. And therefore he kept on sort of dismissing the Shastric vision with some superfluous logic. And most of the people or common people do not have that subtle intellect. They do not have either a sharp nor subtle. So if some seeming logic, they get carried away. And that is how so many sampradayas are surviving in India. And they have been surviving since those days also. They used to say. And they say, Vedanta is difficult. Please understand one thing. Let's keep aside Vedanta. The most difficult is knowledge. Which knowledge? Any knowledge. Not only Paravidya, not only Vedanta is most difficult, but Aparavidya is also most difficult. Why? How? If you are not ready for that subject. Here is a person whose arithmetic is weak. Hardly he or she used to pass in the secondary school and goes into higher secondary school when they have to study algebra and physics. Then he or she will find them to be most difficult. Any knowledge, if you don't enjoy the necessary infrastructures, inner infrastructure, to gain that particular knowledge. If you want to study literature, you require a different mindset. If you want to study mathematics, you require a different mindset. That inner infrastructure is different. If not ready, knowledge is most difficult. Any knowledge. Obviously, then, this Brahma Vidya, which is the most subtle, the Vishaya is most subtle. Anoho aniyar mahato mahyan atmasya jantoho nihitam guhaya. Very subtle. And therefore it is most difficult. any knowledge is difficult, Vedanta is most difficult. They are right, but you have to add a clause. If you are not ready for Vedanta, if you don't enjoy that necessary inner infrastructure, inner attitudes and values, most difficult. And you know, second part of it, the most simple, the most effortless is knowledge, any knowledge, if you are ready for it. The simplest example I can give you. When you see something, you know, this is a color and something written in Gujarati. But if you don't know Gujarati, it is most difficult. If you know Gujarati, it is simple. And at least when you open the eyes, you can read. I have seen nowadays people with the advent of the technology, I have not seen such person for last 20 years. But in Purvashram, I had seen many. Because cataract was so common. Some people have cataract. And because of the cataract, they can't see things. And they want to read newspaper or they want to read something. They always read like this, you know, keeping this and moving the eyes like this. They didn't have the glasses. So it was very difficult to read for them. Answer. The reason is eyes were not ready. If the means of knowledge is ready, knowledge is simple. The most simple thing is knowledge. Remember your school days. In the school, when you come home, suppose you like mathematics and you are clear, you immediately do the mathematics homework. Before you reach in the home, you finish the homework. Or you like literature, easily you remember all those poems and letters and stories and answers, and you loved it and you remembered it. It was so simple. Every student in the class have had one subject which he or she thought to be simple. And there will be another guy who thought this is most difficult. I remember I was very weak in drawings. So drawing was most difficult for me. But there were guys who were very weak in maths and literature and science. They loved drawing. They said drawing is very simple. Understand? So when people say this, Vedanta is very difficult, I studied Vedanta, it is impractical, I don't understand, that is your problem, not problem of Shastra. My eyes don't see, therefore eyes are bad. That is not bad. It is your problem that you have developed a cataract and better get it operated. Better address the problem. So, Vedanta is not difficult, but it is most difficult if you are not ready for Shastra. And then, again, just because I am not ready, I don't study, and that is also not proper. Keep exposing. You will gain clarity. Think of yourself. 1 year ago, what you understood, and now what you understand is different. The consistent exposure, I would repeat, consistent, okay? Today I have meeting and therefore this weekend I cannot attend, and that weekend I have social function, so I cannot attend. Not that. Simple, for out of 104 classes, I hardly end up in taking 90 or some 80 classes. And out of that, you hardly commit to 100%. Commitment to all those classes also prepares you for the study. Vedanta is an end and it is a means as well to some extent, provided you commit yourself with necessary Shraddha. You commit with Shraddha, Vedanta gives a lot of clarity. So, this statement, that is why this teacher in our Shastra keep insisting that one should have an adhikari, should not teach to a student who is not ready. And that is how there is a saying, popular saying, that Vedanta is to be taught only to sannyasi. In Kailash Ashram, Rishikesh, there used to be a tradition that only sannyasis can sit in the class. Sannyasa is a mindset, I have told earlier. When the mindset is not there, the fruits of knowledge, which is immediate, supposed to give you the phalam immediately, it will not give you the phalam. Okay? So, Rishi having said this, Shiro Vratam Tesham Evaitayam Brahma Vidyam Vadeta. To them only teachers should give the Vidya. Having concluded this way, Shruti has one conclusion mantra. We will see in next class. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. There are a couple of announcements.